What's up, War Rapport family? I am your host, C-Dub. A little bit over halfway through spring practice, and we got some groups that are doing well. Other groups need a little bit of work. How are we supposed to feel about that? Mike G and B will weigh in, and we definitely want to hear from you on the latest edition of the Mid-Week Rapport. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. Welcome to the Mid-Week Rapport, brought to you by show sponsor auburnsports.com. As always, we want to show love to those who show us love. Appreciate JG Tate and those guys for definitely supporting the Mid-Week Rapport and being a long-term sponsor and supporter of the War Rapport. Please be sure to head on over there and support those guys because they support us. Shout out to those guys again. Shout out to you guys for hanging out with us. We got a great conversation for you guys tonight. You definitely want other people to get in on it. You can do that by sharing this content, using the hashtag, even at us, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. Help people to find us. Smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe if you have not done so already. Mike G, tell the people why they need to become a member, paid member of the War Rapport in this offseason.
Hey, patron memberships, guys. This is the best way to support our content. This is kind of a way to become a sponsor of the War Rapport, if you think about it. So $5.99 to help us grow the work we're doing here. We're covering practices, press conferences, all that good stuff all the way through year-round. We're doing it for you guys, including basketball, a little bit of baseball this spring. But the War Rapport is here for you. You can also give the gift of the War Rapport by hitting that gifted membership button. YouTube chooses these at random for people who interact at a high level but haven't made the decision to become a patron just yet. So get in on the action. Give the gift of the War Rapport. Help us grow our community. We're giving away a mug tonight. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. You guys know the drill. Just over an hour into the show, we pull for this every single show. We give something away. This is one of our favorite things that we do. So hashtag get your weight up in the comments to enter that drawing. You got to be here to win. So don't be he that is gone at the hour mark. Be
or
here.
she.
Be he or she that is here. Check us out on podcasts, guys. We're on every single podcast platform bringing you podcast original content. That's Mike Mac and Memes. That's the Amen Corner. That's the Morning Drop. That's a lot of stuff that we're doing on podcast. Definitely a lot more car friendly if you want to listen to the War Rapport on your commute. I want to give a special shout out to our sponsor, the Rogue Shop. RogueShop.com. Use code RAPPORT to get 15% off. They've got everything for sleep, anxiety, stress, pain, whatever ails you in life. Bama fans, I think they've got a cure for Bama fans at the Rogue Shop. They don't? No cure? It's a deadly disease? Okay, got it. So don't catch Bama fandom. The Rogue Shop can't help you with that, but they can help you with everything else. Want to thank our guy Richard for supporting us and being a longtime sponsor of the War Rapport.
Gentlemen, listen, we are a little bit over halfway through spring practice, guys. And Mike G, you've been covering B. You may have been there. Were you there this week?
Not for the last one. No, not for the one this week. It was just Mike.
Mike, talk to me, man. Like, what has been kind of the move? We've been hearing from Hugh Freeze. We'll get into some of his comments, but I don't know if you had a chance to be around other coaches, players, or whatnot. But what has the move been like around the complex as Auburn enters the Hugh Freeze era?
It's been good in a lot of ways. At Pro Day, I got a chance to bump into some players. I had a conversation at length on the side with Jason Jones, and guys are excited about the direction of the program right now in some of these position groups. So there's definitely some excitement being generated from the player standpoint. It's mixed from the coaches. I think they understand that there's a lot of work to do. And we get a lot of realism when they talk about it. They say, hey, we've got a lot of work to do in these areas. They do highlight areas where they feel like they've made some improvement. But ultimately, the job is not anywhere near done this spring.
Have you been surprised with Hugh Freeze's honesty? You don't have to go into any specific details, but have you been surprised how candid he's been when asked about how the team is doing?
I don't know that I'm surprised. It is refreshing though to get some honest
Yeah.
answers when we ask a question about, hey, how are these guys doing? Well, not good. We got work to do. Okay, great. So yeah, it's great to hear that from a coach every once in a while. And then when we go out to watch practice, it gives us something to pay attention to. How do the quarterbacks look? Does it look like their eyes are in the right spot? These are things that he's given us during these press conferences. So yeah, it's definitely refreshing for sure.
Well, we got a few. We have a few comments from Hugh Freeze that we actually grabbed, and we're going to listen to them and discuss. Want to get y'all's feedback on it, especially you, B. Will. Haven't heard from you, but let's check out the first one where he actually is critical of two key position groups on offense. Check this out.
I think the two positions that stand out to me right now of we just have a long way to go is the quarterback room and the wide receiver room. Not saying we've arrived at other spots yet, but those are the farthest off because they're probably the most we ask them to do the most, truthfully, and it's brand new to them. Which RPO should be run based on what coverage I see, and how do I properly get off the technique that the DB's playing. We're very, very raw at that right now. I think Cam has great potential, and I'm excited about having him for sure. I love his attitude also, but we've got a ways to go. Not just him, but he still flashes. He made some. I want to see he had 3 really nice catches in the team situations Friday.
Guys, you heard from Hugh Freeze there, his comments as it pertains to the two position groups, QB and wide receiver. Guys, your thoughts on that, hearing that, and B. Will, I'll start with you.
I honestly, I don't know that even hearing how he assesses both position groups, I'm more interested in what he's going to say after the last scrimmage and after A-Day. That's kind of what I'm waiting to both see and hear, because we aren't seeing the in-depth practices. We haven't seen the first scrimmage, which took place. We know there's going to be another scrimmage this weekend. I understand why people are apprehensive about his evaluation of the QBs. I'm glad that he's more positive about the wide receivers. But come on, man, just let's see what happens when you give them some evaluation enough to give them a 1 or a 2 rep at this scrimmage. See how the game is called since you got refs. Then I want to hear it. Everything before then is like, yes, coach, say the things you need to say. Until we actually get to see it for ourselves, because I think we saw, I'm trying to remember the last couple of days. Did we see anything ground shaking or something by which we could define how the race had gone? Not necessarily with Brian Harson's 8 days. I don't want to say we really could. I want to see how they look throwing. That's it. I want to see how they look throwing. I want to see if they're accurate. I'm all right. I've been up on the wide receivers. I think we've all been up on the wide receiver room before now, which is why we were so frustrated by the lack of a passing game from between offensive line and QB. Could never get it right the last couple of years. But yeah, I'm holding my breath for the last scrimmage assessment and A-Day.
Now, Mike, let me ask you this. It's almost like these two position groups kind of go hand in hand. Like, it's going to be difficult to be very complimentary of the wide receiver groups if you're critical of QBs, right? So is it kind of both are just symptomatic of the other, or like what's your take on when you hear these comments from Hugh Freeze?
Yeah, I would have been surprised to hear him say, "Hey, the wide receivers are doing great, but the quarterbacks, right?"
Right.
Ultimately, there is, again, you've heard me say this before, causality between the two. And if the quarterbacks aren't delivering the ball at a high level, what are the wide receivers? Are they getting quality reps? How are they working? Now, there are things that you can do without the ball, knowing where you're supposed to be, running your routes to the correct depth, getting off the line, beating DBs off the line don't really have anything to do with the quarterback, right? So there's still things they can evaluate them on apart from the quarterback. But I'm not surprised to hear this. I just think that those are two positions that have been really undercoached. I think Ike Hilliard did a great job bringing it along, but where they're at right now highlights how far they had to go from where they were. And they've been, like it or not, they've been really held back by the quarterback position over the last, 4 or 5 years, if you ask me, dating back to Gus. So finding a way to get them the ball consistently in space and then running an offense that caters a little bit more to the playmaking abilities that they have, super important, in my opinion, when it comes to, these two together. But to answer your question, yes, I'm not surprised to hear him put these two together when he says we got work to do in both these areas, because I'm not sure how you excel at one and not the other.
And something that was really key, he said, we're asking these position groups to do the most things on offense, right? So obviously there's a lot for them to learn and have to get in a short period of time.
Right.
Should we be surprised? Because there's a lot of people who are a little disgruntled, a little concerned hearing him be critical openly about those two position groups. Here we are at the time he did this interview, they were going into practice number 7. And so for many people at the midway point, that's concerning. How do you guys feel about that? Are you shocked? I know, B. Will, you kind of already gave your thoughts. You're waiting to see how they look. You want to put your eyes on them and see how they actually look to you. But Mike G, where are you on that?
Okay, so people need to make up their mind. Do you want honesty or do you not want honesty about where things are actually at in this room? Now, people are upset because they feel like, oh, more of the same. Right? The quarterbacks again. Here we go again. Guys, it's been 6 practices, right? And, in an earlier part of that presser, he talked about that those two groups are lagging behind because they ask them to do the most.
Right.
There are a lot of moving parts. This is part of the process, and that's what the spring is for. In the summer, they'll put in more work, but I don't think that people should be upset about where they're at right now. I think this is part of the growing pains. If you watch this offense the last couple of years, you know that the bar was on the floor.
Yep.
The bar was literally under the ground. It was in hell. And trying to drag it up.
Let's look at the floor again, just in case people have forgot what the floor looked like. Okay. These are the stats from last year. Okay. This is the floor. TJ Finley threw for 1,200 yards. Ashford threw for 1,600 yards. Holden Garner threw for 8. Okay. 7 pass touchdowns between Robbie Ashford, TJ Finley, none for Holden Garner, 5 interceptions for Finley, 7 interceptions for Robbie Ashford. Just to put that into perspective for you guys. The completion percentage, 49% for Robbie, 57% for TJ. This is the floor, guys. It was on the floor, and you're bringing in a new system that they have to learn, right? This isn't the same system that they were playing in last year. This is a new system in which they're being asked to do a lot more things that they weren't asked to do at all last year. So I'm not surprised that here we are at this point in spring ball and Hugh Freeze says what he says. I kind of anticipated this. But again, if you're expecting Hugh Freeze to be a miracle worker, I could understand how you would probably be a little concerned at this point. He's a developer, not a miracle worker, and it's a process. You got to trust it.
He's a little bit of a self-proclaimed miracle worker, is he not?
Developer.
I develop QBs and I turn programs around quickly, right? Miracle.
Okay.
7 days?
So, that's not a miracle.
7 practices?
So, I'm just saying, well, if you're going to do it quickly, you've got to make, because listen to what else he said during that presser. He said, I expect significant progress in this area by the end of the week. So 7 practices. That's what he said. That came straight out of his mouth. He said, I hope that we're a whole lot further along by Friday.
It'll be 9 technically, but I understand what you're saying.
But you know what I'm saying? Like a big jump from where he said they were at Monday to where he expects them to be at by Friday. And I think that you have to take those large steps forward if you're going to be effective in the fall. So, now what is effective?
If who's going to be effective in the fall?
The offense. The offense in general. It all works together, right?
If the quarterbacks who are here now are going to be effective in the fall.
Sure. Or even the guy who comes in, because he's going to have a shorter learning curve and he's going to have to get in there and do, it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's here or somebody coming in, right?
Oh, it matters.
Everybody is going to have to is making some kind of jump.
Somebody with more skill and more experience it won't be nearly as much of a jump. But
Still has a system to learn when they come in. Still has to develop chemistry with the wide receivers. Still has to learn his offensive line, man. Come on. His jump may be different.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand.
I
understand if you're looking for a guy out of the portal, and we're going to move on because we want to listen to the second clip of Hugh Freeze. But if you're looking for a guy to be the guy, if that's where you are at the end of spring, I would think that Hugh Freeze is going to be looking towards someone who's played in something similar, to where it's less of a jump in terms of learning scheme, and now you're learning players. Right. You're learning, right. You know what I mean? I think if anything, they're looking for someone who's done it and is somewhat familiar with what Hugh Freeze likes to run. Mike G, you were there. You asked a pretty good question to Hugh Freeze, to which he gave a pretty, I love his responses to really good questions. But you asked him about evaluation of Robbie Ashford, seeing as though he can't run in these practices. It's not a live scrimmage or practice. He gave this comment or response when asked this.
Can you talk about how you guys are evaluating a quarterback like Robbie Ashford, who brings a different dynamic that's hard to evaluate when the quarterbacks can't go live?
Great question. I don't know. It's I don't say that to be funny, but I truthfully, I remember vividly when we got Malik Willis to Liberty. All you had really heard was, because there was no significant snaps of him doing what we wanted to do in the college game. I mean, I think he had like 15 snaps in his tenure here, and they were all pretty much zone read. And so you get him, and there are people that practice really, really well. There are people that don't practice as well. I've had those before. Bo Wallace was not a great practice player at all, but played well in the games. Chad Kelly was a good practice player and a good game player. So you've kind of had them all. And truthfully, going in that fall camp with Malik, I had no clue if he was going to be a complete player, because you don't evaluate that portion of the game that you're referring to, because we're not letting anybody, the whistle's being blown as soon as he pulls it down.
So that question was again asked by you. How do you evaluate someone like Robbie Ashford, who's very dynamic of an athlete, but is unable to display that in these spring practices? How do you get a good read or feel for what he can do? And that was his comments when he referred to Malik Willis. Does this put a player like Robbie Ashford at a big disadvantage in competitions like this, where the thing that gives him the edge, he's unable to really show?
I think it actually gives him an advantage, because you have a coach who has already made that decision based on and understands that this dynamic exists. So he's not going to write off the fact that Robbie Ashford can change the game with his legs. He's not. He just had a quarterback, and he said it. Like, listen, it's difficult to evaluate, sure, but there's enough tape to show you what he can do. And when you're weighing who to start at that position, it's going to factor in. So if all things are even, let's say all the quarterbacks finish dead even in terms of throwing the ball and getting their eyes in the right spot and all the things that they talked about. Advantage Robbie Ashford. Because you have a guy who can break a game open with his legs, and you still don't know how this offensive line is going to be in the fall. So it's going to be interesting to see how Hugh Freeze manages this, but I actually think it gives him an edge, because you have a coach who understands that this dynamic exists and has been through it very recently with another player who got drafted.
B?
Yeah, him acknowledging that Robbie has wheels is enough to give him the edge when you consider, like, if all things are even, but that dude's got wheels, though. I'm going to go with that dude. I think Robbie just has to be, if the thing that TJ Finley has been better at so far in his career at Auburn is command and let's say attitude in practice. Command and attitude in practice, that's where Robbie has to catch up, I think, because now I got to see 2 practices. Mike has now seen 3. TJ Finley wasn't far and away the best passer in any practice that I saw in either practice. I don't know if that's going to change. And that's what I'm wondering about here. And kind of going back to what Mike, his evaluation of how much Hugh Freeze should be able to get these guys better by a certain point in time. They're still what they are. And we might not really understand exactly what TJ or Robbie is because neither has really had the time to develop, honestly. That's not what I would call development. Bo Nix got 2 years to develop and started like 20-something games. That's enough time. TJ Finley has had 10 starts between 2 places. Robbie's had 8, 9 starts under 2 completely different offenses. And with 0.2 entire shoulders across those starts. There hasn't really been a fair evaluation or opportunity for these guys to develop. What I'm wondering is TJ as good as he's going to be? If so, Robbie Ashford, you can take it. That's really what it comes down to me. You just have to have the attitude and you have to have the command. You can get those. That just takes time. That takes effort. That's what you can show in spring camp. Can you throw just as well as TJ? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what Robbie's ceiling is throwing because he was hampered all season.
Yeah,
he can catch up in the other 2 areas, though. And I think that knowing that, if he just shows that attitude and he shows that go get it in these practices, the knowledge that he can scoot the way he can scoot, I think that gives him the edge going into the fall camp. Not going into the season, but fall camp.
To bolster that point real quick, Caesar, I can't remember if it was during the clip we played or if it was elsewhere in the press conference. He also noted that he is well aware that some guys practice like crap, and then when you put them in the game, it's showtime.
Yeah.
And he specifically referenced Bo Wallace when saying he was not a good practice player, but he still put him out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He still put Bo Wallace out there. So I just think this quarterback race is going to be more than what people think it is. And there's a lot of overreading into, he had a good practice, or I heard that he was off in practice, or this and that. Hugh Freeze understands there are some things that are very intangible that a quarterback can possess. And he may not show it in practice, but when you put him in a game, he could be just dynamic. So
that sounds like a departure from the previous coach who needed to see it in practice before he ever trusted putting you in the game.
Which is not a bad philosophy. I'm just saying, I think that it's good that he at least is leaving the possibility out there that, hey, it might be, possible that this guy is not the greatest for whatever reason. And he's shouldered a lot of that responsibility by saying, hey, maybe we need to teach it differently. A great teacher is one that tailors the message to the student, not one that just tries to teach you the way, this is my method, it's proven, and if you don't get it, you're a dummy, right? That's not a good teacher. So having somebody who can truly tutor a quarterback and send the message and motivate in a way that motivates that guy, teach in a way that guy learns, show him in a way that he understands. That's what I want to see from a guy who said he's a quarterback whisperer. That's what I want to see. So take one of these guys and accomplish that. Now, ultimately, they have a role to play in their own maturation process. But I put more of the onus on the guy making $6 million a year than I do with the player that had enough talent to be recruited by half the programs in the country. Find a way to get it out of them.
Listen, there's a scrimmage this Friday. They're actually bringing in FCC officiating. So they're actually doing a lot more situational. It's going to be more of a scrimmage than last Friday was. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. If there's any separation, how the QBs do. We will definitely keep you guys posted.
I'm hearing that they're flying in Smoke Monday to practice targeting calls. They're bringing them in just so they can call targeting on them. This is a target. Boom, every time. Good old Smoke. Still giving back to the program.
I'm not laughing at that.
I'm not right. Right. Take that as you want it, people. Let's grab some of the comments. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a Wednesday. Corey Dubb says, I'd like to volunteer to become the official War Rapport baseball reporter. We have an applicant.
We have an applicant for baseball. Okay. All right. Corey.
Yeah, right. You know how to reach us, Corey.
Yeah.
Joseph Ballard says, going to miss y'all the next few weeks, headed up to remote Alaska for work.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Be safe up there, man. And sorry to hear that.
So Alaska. They got Wi-Fi up there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
We'll see.
Be
safe. Be safe, man.
Don't miss the show.
Right. Auburn Dad for Life says the content is so much it's worth more than $6, referring to being a member.
We agree. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Just throw another $50 super chat on that comment.
No lies told there. Derek McClellan says, how many gummies are we going to need for this upcoming football season, guys?
Yeah, that depends. How what are you expecting would be what I would ask. Like I'll give you a good example. So Ike proclaimed before the basketball season started that we're going to be a double-digit loss team. And as we started a little rough in conference play, we got a little better. But as we lost a lot of games down the stretch, it was like Ike was like, I mean, we'll still make the tournament, but this is kind of what I thought. And I don't think he was stressed or upset as much as the general fan base was. Now, you still don't want us to lose as many games as we lost or lose the way that we lost. But if you understand what we are, then you can set your expectations accordingly.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are, well, I can develop a quarterback and improve programs quickly. Improve by how much? Develop by how much? Improvement, I could say 6 wins is an improvement, but is that really an improvement? No, not to me. Not really.
No.
So what numbers are you expecting your quarterback to throw for, run for? How many wins are we expecting to get? What do we expect those wins to be? Who do we think we're going to beat when we look at our schedule next season? If you set your expectations and you set them high, then I don't know. Maybe you might need some gummies. A few packs.
Well, here's the deal, right? The answer to this question is it doesn't matter. Stock up now and use code rapport to get 15% off.
You didn't see it coming, B?
You don't want to.
It wasn't great. He didn't reel me in with the setup. You know what I'm saying? 6.5 out of 10 on that one.
You don't need them and not have them, right? Like, so just go ahead and stock up. Help us out, man. Go to the Rogue Shop and get ready. Year one, presumably a lot.
Here's the thing, B. You got to give him a little grace on this one because he's not the host. So for him to assert himself, it was kind of telegraphed. That's what I mean. So give him a little grace on it. When he's the host, he can set it up a lot better. So wait for your morning drops for him to
stock up on your gummies and candles, man. I mean, you're gonna need a lot of woosah this fall. There are gonna be a lot of growing pains.
Code rapport for
50% off. Yeah. But there are going to be a lot of growing pains. I think that if you are looking at what it looks like, there are going to be mistakes made by some guys, and they're going to have to learn. This offensive line has to gel, man, and these quarterbacks have to learn how to help their linemen out, how to help their receivers out. The receivers have to learn how to help the quarterback out. There's a whole chemistry thing that has to happen that you hope happens before the fall to make these guys like I'm dead. So anyway, yeah, moving on. I don't want to throw me off here in the comments.
All right, yeah, focusing. P-Pass says just high expectations of the QB room like Pearl does for point guard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I like that comparison.
You can't be good in this league without a dynamic quarterback anymore. You just can't. Yeah. You got to be exceptional at too many other things, and it's the SEC, man. Talent is everywhere. So you need a quarterback, you need a general, you need a field general that can go out there and make his offensive line better, make his running backs better, make his receivers better. And that's what Hugh Freeze is going to be trying to make somebody into this fall. But
sure.
Yeah, you need help from that position because average guys, the last average quarterback to win anything in the SEC of note was Stetson Bennett. And even he had to improve from year 1 to year 2 for them to keep that going.
Or from year 2 to 3, because that was his third year.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, year 1 starting to year 2 starting is what I meant.
Yeah.
James Barnett says Freeze already answered it for us when he said both position groups do the most. Keyword being the most, just my opinion. And this is pretty much what we elaborated on. Like the jump they're going to have to make from last year to this year, plus a new system where you're being asked to do more. It's going to be some growing pains. So trust the process.
But I think the point of this comment was it's supposed to be this way because we're asking them to do a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the point he was making.
Yeah.
Philip Coleman says, looks like we got to hit the portal for linebacker since we will possibly be losing 2 in Tisdall and Brown going to the portal. We will talk about that after the break. Thanks for the comment, though, Philip. Brad Browning says, Coach Hugh Freeze also took ownership with regard to recognizing that they have to teach things differently. I like that part, Brad. I really did.
It's an encouraging comment to hear from your new head coach.
Right.
For sure. I was going to wait on this one, but I'm not sure how long you're going to be around, B. Kenneth says, B. Will looks like Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and Mike G looks like Richard. Wow. Richard Pryor, just saying.
Oh, man.
Have you ever got that?
Well, at least I'm funny.
Hey, man, there's nothing wrong with looking like Uncle Phil. So one of the greatest TV dads ever. He probably got about, 150 pounds on me.
But I say Uncle Phil hit that,
right.
Got his weight down.
You are not my father. Best moment in TV history.
Oh, man. But guys, listen, you're watching the Mid-Week Rapport brought to you by auburnsports.com. Do us a favor and share this content on social media. Smash that like button and hit subscribe if you haven't done so already and get us closer to 20K. Let's pay some bills and acknowledge our sponsors.
This edition of the War Rapport is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial future, let Athletic Architects help you to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, War Eagle Oil. War Eagle Oil is your #1 place for all of your motor oil and related products. For more information, visit wareagleoil.com.
Guys, become a patron and join our community. This is a great way to kind of co-sponsor our content. $5.99 a month will help us keep the work that we're doing here at the War Rapport going. We're covering practices, all sorts of great things for you guys this spring, this summer, and this fall, of course. So year-round working at the War Rapport. Join our community. Help us keep this thing going. You can also help us by gifting a membership to somebody. Find that gifted membership button and give the gift of the War Rapport to somebody who watches but hasn't become a patron just yet. They choose these at random, so like, subscribe, comment, and you will likely be on the receiving end of one of these gifted memberships. We're giving away a mug tonight. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments to enter the drawing. We're going to draw here in just a little bit. You got to be here to win, so make sure you're sticking around and make sure your browser is updated and refreshed so you're not hanging behind where we call your name. Check us out on podcasts. We're on every single podcast platform that exists. The War Rapport, the Auburn Express, powered by the War Rapport. We got Mike Mack and Memes, Amen Corner, Morning Drops, Lives, all of it on podcast. So check us out in audio form. And then I want to give a special shout out again to the Rogue Shop for sponsoring this segment. Use code Rapport to get 15% off anything you need for pain, sleep, anxiety, stress. They've got it there at the Rogue Shop to help you out. Support us by supporting our sponsors and visiting therogueshop.com. Code Rapport for 15% off.
Oh, man, listen, y'all are wilding in the comments, man. I'm loving not Uncle Phil, but Overton on Living Single.
I like that one.
I'm dead.
I like that one, man. That's a good one. I am not a handyman, but I will take these are great comparisons. You know why? Because I like these characters.
B, we need to give you a War Rapport hat just to test that theory out for sure. We need to see that because Overton used to always with the
jacket. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Loved Overton, man.
Erica Ratney says, when asked what Freeze's solution was for the lack in areas, he said, recruiter. Erica, I actually have that quote that I'm going to actually read out myself when asked about a particular position group. So thanks for that. We will definitely address that in a minute. Corey Dubb says, let's talk possible wide receiver attrition that was mentioned this morning. Where is it coming from? The numbers are already low at that position.
So here's the deal. You bring in Martner. He's got a huge catch radius. And you've got, he's mentioning that wide receivers may be underwhelming a little bit so far through camp. there is possibly some attrition coming. Blackerby and I talked about, Amari Kelly is a guy who showed flashes, but suddenly the room got a little bit more crowded with Martner coming in. And it's just like, these guys want to play. Every year that passes that you don't play, but, I think that Amari Kelly, I don't know if he saved his red shirt last year. So I think he burned a year of eligibility already.
He did.
And, they want to play. So wasting another year not playing is not an option for a lot of these guys. But it could be in a lot of spots. If I'm Jay Fair, I'm sitting there thinking, hey,
Amari Kelly is a sophomore this year.
Right. Yeah. Like, I'm just saying, how much longer do I sit behind, some of these guys, maybe willing to give it one more year. But ultimately, all these guys think they're the best at their position. They want to play now. So the better programs, we keep talking about this, have to deal with this attrition problem often. You just don't hear about it as much when your team is having success.
Right.
Right. When you are not having success, every time a player decides to leave, it's like, oh, my God, we lost the third walk-on to come in 4 years.
Right.
So It's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen.
Corey, you said the numbers are low. I'm thinking, so the guys who I think they've got to play, Camden Brown has got to play.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that Coy Moore has got to play.
Okay.
I would say Martner's got to play.
Okay.
I think there's a fair chance that Tavares Dawson could be on the outside looking in.
Ooh.
And the reason is because he is almost a pound for pound duplicate in skill set of Javarius Johnson, except Javarius Johnson has already probably been the most, I know he's been the most productive wide receiver on the field for us, but the boy gets open. So if you're telling me I got one guy who's 5'10" and fast and can get open and is sure-handed, then Tavares Dawson, how do you find that opportunity on the field when you are the same build and the same type of receiver, but I don't have a reason to take Javarius Johnson off the field?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a duplicate in player type and skill set that makes me go, all right, you're going to have to find somewhere else because I got guys here. I got a guy who can do exactly what you can do.
Yep.
That's one of the reasons we were so frustrated the last couple of years when both Elijah Kenyon and Landon King didn't get on the field, right? It was because I haven't seen anybody catch the ball as consistently as these two dudes. Why aren't these two dudes on the field? We were struggling to catch the ball in 2021. Drops everywhere. And Elijah King is not on the field. That makes no sense because I haven't seen anybody else get open the way he could do and catch the way he could do. With Tavares Dawson and Javarius Johnson, it's like, give me the one that's actually been on the field, been more productive, and been consistent when he's been out there. I think Tavares Dawson's on the outside looking in. I think probably, and I'm going by the drop-off of his snaps last season, but Malcolm Johnson Jr., he didn't get snaps once he got hurt. I didn't see him get back on the field because the freshmen started to get on the field last season.
Now he's out with a collarbone injury.
He's injured now.
He's out with collarbone injury.
Yeah, and now he's injured again.
I don't see him in the portal though, as a result of it.
Yeah, I don't know if he can still redshirt. I disagree with you on Tavares Dawson because people have been telling me that he's been going to the rogue shop, so he's gonna start.
Okay,
whether you like it or not.
Okay, that was a good one. That was a good one. That was a good one. Did not see. Thought you was
a little forced.
Info.
A little forced, but I'll let you have it. I'll let you.
The misdirection is what makes it work.
Yeah,
the misdirection.
Yeah.
Okay, the prestige. The prestige. I appreciate that.
I needed another shot at it.
Thank you.
I'm a credit Ike here, even though I'm looking at this roster and I'm looking at names I have not heard so far this spring. Amari Kelly was a name that you mentioned, Ike, on Locked On, but Landon King. Has there been a Landon King sighting? Anyone heard anything?
Yeah, he's out there.
Yeah,
he's working at tight end.
Okay, he's listed as a wide receiver.
Yeah, he's been working at tight end.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's out there.
We'll see. We'll definitely see for sure. But you're thinking Tavares Dawson.
Yeah,
I'm thinking Dawson.
Yeah, he's underwhelmed. I mean, for as fast as he is,
that's not a bad pick, considering that if Hugh Freeze likes the type of receivers that he likes, there's not a lot of room for 5'10", 5'11" guys out there.
Unless you're just next level.
Yeah, over the middle slot guys that are quick and can make people miss and have sure hands.
You've already picked your guy, Jay Fair.
Yeah, that's it, man. He's the one.
I like Javarius Johnson and Jay Fair, but I mean, how many of them do you keep? Because Coy Moore is 6'1".
Yeah.
There's going to be attrition, guys. Some of these guys are going to leave.
I think it's going to happen.
Landon jumped in the portal and got out already. So,
Right.
if the writing's on the wall again after this spring, I wouldn't be surprised to see him jump back in the portal. If you're going to bring in talent, you're going to lose talent.
Right.
That's just the name of the game. It's next man up. Recruit well enough so when those guys leave, somebody else steps in and does the job.
Yeah.
Guys, let's talk about we've talked about some areas that need improvement. Actually, let's still stay on that. Let's stay on that. Because Erica mentioned a comment of Hugh Freeze. This was mentioned about the jack position, and particularly the pressure that's coming from the jack position. Hugh Freeze's comments was, we need to recruit more when asked about how that position is doing. Pretty telling in terms of his expectation, in terms of what he wants to see. He says, we're not where we need to be in rushing the passer. Obviously, this looks like an area that Hugh Freeze and company will try to address in the transfer portal when it opens up after spring, clearly. But something that you guys talked about early this morning on Locked On is obviously you have Keldrick Falk, who's the true freshman coming in. He definitely has a high ceiling, but he's a freshman. So how much can you expect from him early on? But you had Elijah McAllister, the transfer from Vanderbilt, and Hugh Freeze spoke about him in terms of being a good team guy or a locker room guy.
Mm-hmm.
But a guy that was mentioned or not mentioned is someone that you guys talked about who you've been high on, Mike G, and that's Dylan Brooks. Pretty interesting that you haven't heard much from him, and it looks like they're going. Could this be a potential guy that could potentially hit the portal after this spring?
Yeah, I think it's more about them just being thin at that position than it is about him, how he's doing. But It has been oddly quiet on the Dylan Brooks front, and it's worrying me a little bit. Listen, I already lost Malcolm to the spring. My heart can't take Dylan to. So I need Dylan to be the number 18 overall pick that ESPN said he was. This was a huge get for Harsin, and for him to not develop it, just to me it would be another in a long list of guys who had a ton of potential and didn't pan out for whatever reason. And I would not be surprised to see him go someplace else and thrive. So when Hugh Freeze talks about coaching quarterbacks and teaching differently, I wonder if there was a teaching issue with Dylan and he's got some catching up to do at that position. So that jack is going to be a really important position in Ron Roberts' defense. And I think he is prototypical, for that position, somebody who can put his hands in the dirt or play standing up. They've just got to figure out a way to use him that makes sense and get it out of him. He's giving me Byron Cowart vibes right now. He's giving me Byron Cowart vibes, and I don't like it.
Okay. Well, we'll continue to see how this progresses and how that position group looks. But it looks like all signs are pointing to they're going to the portal to address that position after spring.
Yeah, you need depth. They don't have depth there. For sure. So
we've had a lot of injuries at that position over the past 2 years as well. So you definitely need depth there for sure. I agree. Mm-hmm. One position group, staying with almost on the defensive side of the ball, a position group that Hugh Freeze has been pretty complimentary of has been the linebacker group. Oddly enough, this is one of the position groups that we were concerned about going into spring. Let's hear Hugh Freeze's comments on that.
How are the linebackers adjusting and coming along
That's actually one group that I think I have felt like we've improved ourselves from practice 1 to practice 6. I don't feel as good about some others as I do that one. I think Josh has done a nice job with those guys, and the additions we've made there have helped too. But I think we're a little deeper and better there than I originally felt. I hope I feel that way after 15 practices, but that's kind of how I feel today after 6 practices.
And then a few days later, it was announced that 2 guys are entering the portal. Those guys being Cameron Brown and Desmond Tisdall. I'm not sure how he still feels about the depth, but he is happy about where this position group sits right now. Thoughts on that? I'll go with you, Mike.
Oh, they brought in Tolan, right? So this was a guy that a lot of people, over a couple states over, were upset that they lost. Right. So DeMario Tolan come in, changes, I think, the complexion of that linebacker room. I mean, you've got guys, you've got dudes, and it just makes me think that maybe that group, well, absolutely that group was being undercoached. I think that was one of the first position coaches they announced, no chance we're bringing this guy back at all. So it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses. Now, I got to say, for him to say that they've improved through 6 practices, in part tells me that the bar was on the floor. And unless they're just not learning at all, this position group had nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
Based on what's on tape and like what they produced. And, I mean, I guess they could get worse. But if you're effective at teaching and you feel like you're effective at teaching and you're like, hey, we got talent in here, but there are things that they've never been told. Let's just tell them and then see how they play. Might be account for a lot of the improvement that you've seen in the linebacker room. So linebacker has to get better. Auburn has to shore up the second level of that defense. They have to. They're putting a lot of pressure. When you cannot shore up the second level, it puts a lot of pressure on your D-line and a lot of pressure on your DBs. So, when running backs are consistently getting in through to the second level, everybody creeps up. It opens up play action for the other team. There's so many bad things that happen when you don't play well at linebacker. And so having dynamic linebackers, I kind of see it like having dynamic quarterbacks on the offense. You need good linebackers in this league to help shore up your defense that can drop back into coverage, play in zones. They need to be multifaceted Renaissance men when it comes to the defense. So Auburn had a lot of improvement to do in this area. And I'm encouraged to hear that he feels like they're making those steps this spring.
B, your thoughts on this?
I think it's about the guys. I just think it's about the guys.
They got dudes now?
Well, we brought in one guy, was a guy we were trying to get in the 21 cycle, the 22 cycle, Tolan. We lost to him. So he was a highly touted recruit, had a lot of options, went to LSU. We got him. So he didn't like something there, came here.
It was Brian Kelly's dancing.
Probably.
That was it. That's what
that little circular camera thing where you're back to back with the players.
Yeah, he was like, I can't play for this guy.
Looking like the daddiest dad of all time.
Or his accent.
Yeah. My family.
I don't like the way he said collard greens. It was too disrespectful. I'm out.
Yeah. So, I mean, we get Tolan, right? That's an upgrade. I think Tolan is instantly, of all the guys who are going to be returning this year, he's the best player. If even for Steiner, Riley, for everybody else who was going to be coming back, Tisdall, included, Tolan was a better prospect. Recruit coming out of high school, and as far as what he showed in the limited time he got to play, he's a better player. That's an upgrade. Keys. I didn't see Keys play a lot. I didn't really notice Keys because I didn't really look at Ole Miss's defense. I looked at their line score and they were giving up points left and right.
Oh,
so
I looked at that defense. It was
yeah.
But again, it was a lot. I had issues with the philosophy and a lot of the scheme. It was a lot going on. So it's difficult to focus on a particular guy when there's a lot of dysfunction on that side of the ball. But continue, B.
Yeah. So the thing that makes this jump out to me is, here are the guys who both have experience in the league, who both had quality experience in the league. And they're coming from other programs where they started. Boom, boom, done. That's better than what we had coming back here. I mean, don't get me wrong, Steiner did start, Riley started some. I don't think we've seen the best of Riley yet. I think the injuries probably held back his year and changed the trajectory of his season. But I think Steiner was like, oh man, I don't know. It was like we can put a lot on C-Rob, whether that was all him. I think coaching is probably equal parts player and coach, and where it fluctuates, it's really hard from the outside looking in to tell which is which. That's why we can say, oh, well, look, the coaches didn't get it right, or we hadn't recruited great at linebacker for a few years. Which story do you like better? I think it's probably some of both. So I'm not willing to put everything on C-Rob. I think that Freeze got here and was like, hey, man, listen, I've seen these guys. We need some more. Go get them. Go get them. They did. So, which, again, if we're going to say, he said the way to fix these positions is recruit. You know what that means to me? These guys ain't good enough. Let's get some more.
Or you don't have depth. right?
That's true.
Or you just don't have depth yet. And I think he understands that you have to be too deep at most positions, right? If you're going to have any kind of real success in this league. So, I don't think it's not necessarily. He's been very careful about not overly praising people, but also not tearing down his guys.
Right. He's not gonna. He's
Right,
not gonna say, "Oh, they're not good enough." But yeah, when you want to bring in some more dudes, they've got to supplant some dudes because your scholarships aren't unlimited. So
right.
And then with the whole recruit statement, what I got from it is we got guys at the edge position, but we're not bringing pressure from that position. And I need to go get a guy who, when I need to get someone who need to disrupt the timing of that offense from that position, we don't have that guy currently today. We got guys who can do other things well from that position, but we need to bring pressure from that position. And as of 6 practices in, I'm still looking for that guy. That's what I took from that.
Mark my words. Now, I didn't call any. I'm not calling any shutouts this year. But however, if Auburn can bring pressure consistently from the edge, our DB room leads the league in interceptions this year. Right? If they can get pressure off the edge and they can force more bad throws, I'm telling you, this DB room, which is
got dudes back there.
I'm telling you, they will consistently eat up bad passes, wobbly passes. They'll make breaks on balls. You force more bad throws, and watch these receivers, watch these DBs eat up receivers. Leads the league in interceptions. And I got to go back and look at the numbers, but the next time we talk about this, I'll have a requisite number of pressures and sacks to say Auburn leads the league in interceptions in 2023.
Okay. All right. We'll see. We'll definitely see. Hugh Freeze didn't really talk about this position group per se, but he was asked about a particular player on this position group. That guy being Justin Rogers, the transfer. Let's hear what Hugh Freeze had to say about him.
What have you seen from Justin Rogers, and how did you treat your wife on Saturday night for her birthday?
So this Justin Rogers is a football player. He's a handful. He's going to be somebody that, Lord willing, stays healthy, and we depend upon to be a factor in the middle. But he requires a double team. I think he will. So been really pleased with how he works. He loves the game. He loves to practice. He's got a joy about him that's fun to be around. So I've been really, really pleased with him.
Very complimentary of him. Going into spring, we were looking at, hey, it's Jason Jones, right? But we're seeing that it's Justin Rogers, which means you're gonna have some big dudes up front. They're gonna be quiet. They're gonna be requiring some double teams because I still see Jason Jones factoring somewhere in on the line. I don't know about you guys.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but those two playing next to each other is a possibility as well too, right? Like
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it had to be one or the other, but like
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they have anytime Hugh Freeze goes out of his way to talk about intangible things, I'm paying attention. He's a joy to be around. He's a hard worker. He's staying away from telling us results on the field, but didn't he actually went a step further and say he requires double teams? Right. He's already a dude, and he's going to eat up, he's just going to eat up blocks and free other people. I mean, Justin Rogers is one of those guys that might help your edge guy. I'm going to stop because I almost said something that Ike was going to be laughing at for 10 minutes. But let your edge guy get to the quarterback. So I'm just thinking to myself, you guys knew where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it hit me. I was like, nope, don't feed him any ammo tonight. I just really think that, you bring in these guys, and Brian has talked repeatedly at the quarterback position about some guys not being Hugh's guys, but that can be at other positions too, and not necessarily on offense or anything that he's coaching.
Sure,
that's true.
When a coach likes a guy, he likes a guy. Yeah. And if he says Justin Rogers is a dude, then the other coaches are paying attention to that. And he's not saying that just about anybody. I think it's notable for an offensive head coach to speak so highly of a defensive guy in particular, and be specific about things that he likes about that guy.
Right.
Now he sees 6 practices in, 7 practices in at this point. Man, good for Justin Rogers. Another game changer that defenses will have to account for in the fall, but you don't have any tape on him at Auburn in this system.
Right.
It may take, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Auburn get off to a fast start next season because people just don't know what to expect. And if they have any level of success, Justin Rogers has a good first third of the season, and then he starts requiring more attention in the system. So when you're the guy, you draw double teams. They game plan for you, and it gets harder. I felt like that's what it was like being Derek Brown, right? I mean, he probably got double teamed in the grocery line at his grocery store. Like, I mean, that guy was always dangerous wherever he went.
Yeah.
And people had to account for him. And so his numbers maybe waned a little bit because he was just drawing all the attention all the time.
And I'm curious to see who's going to take advantage. If that's true that he's going to require double teams, who from this line eats because of that? I'm looking at someone like Marcus. I'm looking like the Marcus Harris.
Yeah.
The edge rusher. We got a question here from Jerome D. He says, how do you feel about Jeffrey Mba possibly playing defensive end?
I don't feel good about it at all. I think you just remember, tackle, they're going to rotate guys on this D line. And you have to stay fresh in this league. The days of workhorse D tackles are all but over. Now, you may have guys that you keep in the game at clutch situations, but Mba is going to be a guy that factors in no matter what. Right. So he may not be the first guy out there. He might not be the starter, but he will have a chance to make an impact on every game that he plays in this fall. A significant chance.
They have some serious guys up front for sure. Let me ask you guys this. With what we're hearing about Justin Rogers and other guys on the D line that we know can bring it. Auburn finished 97th in the nation, 10th in the SEC in rush defense last year. Obviously, we're optimistic and hopeful that they improve, but how much? Can they potentially be top 5 in rush defense? Given what we are hearing so far with the guys that we have, could they potentially finish in the top 5 SEC in rush defense?
Top 5?
Top 5.
I think so.
In rush defense?
In rush defense. They finished 10th last year.
I think so. And the reason I think so is more because of who the coaches are. So Ron Roberts is a linebacking coach by trade. That's the position he keys on. His defense does a lot with linebackers. And then I'm thinking about who the linebacking coach is actually a guy, Josh. Wait, what's his last name? I don't want to say his last name wrong. The linebackers coach. Aldridge. I was about to say a different last name completely. He was actually the guy who, if I'm not mistaken, he was the defensive coordinator at Liberty before they transitioned down here. When you are big picture guy running the whole defense and then you get to focus in on one group, run defense is about linebackers, man. It's about assignments, but it's about the defensive line filling those gaps and allowing the linebackers to get 2 guys. If you have outstanding defensive linemen, then they can get into the backfield and create some negative plays for you. And that's if the defensive linemen or the defensive ends are outstanding. But even if they aren't outstanding, if they just do their jobs, good linebacking play creates great run defense. I think we were at a deficit in linebacking play last year. I do not expect there to be a linebacking play, a deficit at linebacker this year, both because of the talent we brought in and because of the coaching we brought in. I think we have a very, very good chance to be top 5 run defense.
Yeah, it's interesting. Over the years, Auburn has had some very underrated linebackers that were really good at running down running backs in the open field. Guys like Josh Vines and Chris Frost and these super athletic linebackers that we had that just were really good at tracking guys, especially when they were trying to get to the outside. So, these quick backs that you have in the league trying to bounce to the outside, it was tough. It's been tough in the past trying to get around these guys. I'm hoping to see them get back to that a little bit, where they have guys who are just good, have a knack for the ball and have a knack for tracking running backs out of the backfield. If they can do that, I agree with B, man. Run defense is about filling gaps and your defensive line, hopefully creating disruption in the backfield that makes it a little easier for your linebackers to get downhill and get after the running back. But it's been how many touchdowns that we see scored last year because a linebacker literally just ran through the wrong gap,
Right.
or ran right into a block,
Right.
when it was clear where he was supposed to go.
Right.
So I saw Steiner did it embarrassingly one game. I forgot what game it was, but it was when they showed the overhead shot.
Just pick one.
It was not good. So he was somebody who got mentioned by Hugh Freeze so far this spring as well too. As somebody who's he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy, but I just feel like that's how badly they were being coached, and they've got to do better with this group here. And if they can improve this group, they have a chance to give people a lot of fits. They gave people fits last year, because think back over that season, there were not a lot of blowouts. Right. Like it was just, they just weren't good enough in some areas, and system, I think, has a lot to do with it. So hopefully the system is more, and the teaching is more catered to the linebackers' deficiencies, and, they can play smarter and play more instinctually so that they can play fast. Because when you're out there thinking your way through it, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you know how it is, dude. You can't be looking down trying to get the groove right. You got to know what you're doing. So
Wait, what are we talking about?
So anyway, the whole
That's
point,
a movie. That's a movie reference. That's a movie reference.
The
wood.
Okay.
I was like,
Oh,
where's
okay.
this from? Okay.
All right. And so,
But
to
what
me-
was referenced in the wood is where I thought you would just went straight there. But I got you.
Yeah. All right. I was trying to be subtle, but then you just brought it to the surface.
Yes,
So-
I did. My apologies. Please go on.
So anyway, you got to be instinctual. You have to be able to play and just know where you're going and know what to do. Yeah, I love our chat. Chat is amazing. So yeah, that's why I hope for the linebacker warrior coming up.
For sure. And again, like the run defense last year had its fair share of issues. So I'm curious to see how much I do expect them to improve. How much remains to be seen. We will definitely keep an eye for that. Guys, it's time to draw.
Hey,
All right. Time for somebody to win something. They're going to win. What are we drawing again? You pick something
mug.
different.
Yeah, we're a mug.
You got the mug?
Yeah,
Okay.
mug.
All right. Just making sure. Courtesy of War Eagle Oil, we are giving away a mug. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments to enter to win. Mike G, how we looking, sir?
Well, let's see here. So we got 55 people
That's
in this
not
joint right now. It's not bad.
bad.
It's not bad. So I'm going to give you guys 5 more seconds to get in here before we draw. We got over 200 people in here tonight. And one more person got in. Who's it going to be tonight? Oh, Todd
Jordan.
I feel, has Todd been a winner before? It doesn't matter. We're still giving it to you, but I definitely like Todd.
Yeah,
Todd might be a 2-time winner.
He's here because he's telling people to smash the like button. So, Todd,
Hey.
here's what we need you to do for us, sir. First of all, congratulations. Glad that you're hanging out with us. Email us business at the War Rapport. Give us your physical address and enjoy that mug. Don't have it in your hands if you're stressed and watching the Auburn game. We don't want you breaking mugs like some people are doing out here. Okay, it's the cup of greatness. Never did anything to anyone. Congrats, for sure. All right. Let's grab some comments here, Mike.
All
Blake
right.
Robinson says Camden, or I think he means Cameron, was never going to play, and Desmond Tisdall has been these JJ Evans references for the defense.
Yeah, I don't
hilarious.
disagree with this. I just think it's about that time where guys start making decisions about where they're going to play. And, we've seen guys leave mid-spring before. This is not an indication of something nefarious happening. It just happens, right? Like,
do you think they're having meetings with these? Because I think it's interesting that 2 guys from the same position group left on the same day.
yeah, I think that it is evidence of a pecking order starting to flesh out. And if these coaches are being fair to the players, they're giving them the feedback to say, listen, you need to find someplace else to play. You're not going to play here. Give them time, but give them enough time before that second portal window hits that they can start looking for a home.
Yeah, for sure. CM Pat Says, I do like Coach Hugh Freeze just being real and managing expectations. Yes, he touts a quick turnaround, but that doesn't mean every turnaround is the same. I like this comment here. Thoughts on this, Mike?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get this comment, but show progress. Show significant and visible progress every year, and people will be patient. But if it looks like we're moving backwards, and in this league, standing still is the same as moving backwards because everybody around you is getting better. The league got tougher last year with LSU finding their way with Brian Kelly, and Arkansas is not laying down no more. It's maybe Texas A&M is becoming a new doormat. Who knows? But you got to get better. You got to get better in this league every month, every practice, every offseason, or you are falling behind the arms race that is the SEC.
All right. Let's go to Hugh Rayleigh. He says, I think it's too early to write off anybody or elevate many yet. Still really early.
Yeah, and he's kind of trying to preach this offseason. Hey guys, we're not going to be narrowing down a lot of things until the fall. So Hugh Freeze is trying to promote competition, and he's trying to keep guys engaged. Now, this is Cap. He's narrowing it down in his head. But even if he does have an idea, that if they haven't announced it, you still have a chance to change his mind through what you do and how you perform and how you absorb. So I think that my message to the players would be like, until he says it out loud who the starter is, I got to believe I have a shot.
Yeah. Corey Weber asks us an interesting question. He asks, who is Kayan Lee going to start in front of?
I don't know the answer to this question. Zach Blackerby is real high on Kayan.
Are you hearing anything about him?
No, not really. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this.
I mean, I really like who we got returning.
Yeah.
To me, I think if your DJ James and Nehemiah Pritchett wasn't returning, yeah, this is a conversation to be had. Assuming those guys stay healthy, that's going to be tough for a true freshman to come in. Now, I've heard he's incredibly talented. He will be a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to see what happens there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Jake Mobley asks, how do y'all think our AU's Pro Day went?
Pro Day is one of the most boring events that happens all year. Attending is pretty boring, but I thought it went well. I thought that the new Performance Center really shined at Pro Day. It did. Walking into that facility for scouts, and understanding that guys who train here, who play here, are working with the best equipment, with the best facilities, and hopefully with the best coaches, definitely left an impression on everybody who stepped foot in that facility for Pro Day. Cam showing up, I thought, brought a lot of attention that Pro Day otherwise would not have gotten. And a lot of those guys got to get out there and catch balls from Cam, and the scouts just stuck around to watch it. Because Cam didn't go until after all the other drills were done. He wasn't out there. We didn't see him out there. He wasn't standing around drawing attention to himself until it was time to throw, which was at the end. So I know a lot of people felt like Cam maybe took some shine away from some other guys, Caesar, but I was there. It didn't happen.
I saw your tweet about that too.
Yeah, it didn't happen. It was a made up Twitter narrative.
Joe Kyle says, I may have missed something, but feels like you guys are tap dancing around Coach Hugh Freeze's comments on the QB room's progress.
I don't know about this, Joe. Like, I think I'm taking him at his word. He's saying they got a long way to go. He's saying that they're going to try to teach it better, and he's hoping to see significant progress by the end of the week, which is 2 days from now. So he made those comments on Monday. So he's acknowledged, I think, very clearly that room is nowhere close to where it needs to be. But he's also acknowledged that, they asked them to do the most. To them and the wide receiver room, he grouped them together. So I'm just going to take him at his word until after the spring, and then we'll see what he says after A-Day.
Yeah, and just to add to Mike G's comments, when you look at where these QBs are starting, I can see why he'd say that.
Yeah. For sure.
I understand. I'm not shocked that they still have a ways to go. So More. Stay tuned on that. Erica Ratney asks, what do we think about the nickel position? Keontae Scott is there now, right? And I believe he is, Mike. I'm not sure if Donovan Kaufman is playing the nickel, but do you have any information on that?
No, not really. Listen, Keontae Scott is a star, and he's going to play, and he's going to be on the field. They're going to put Keontae on the field. That DB room, it should be impressive, man. Unless they're consistently left on an island, Keontae Scott is another one of those guys I see coming up with a few interceptions this year. So I like him a lot. You know, we interviewed him before he stepped foot on campus, and the intelligence jumped off of this kid. So if you haven't seen that interview, I highly recommend you go back to our Building Report playlist and hit play on that one. Keontae Scott is a star. He is, and he's going to be a star here at Auburn, for a couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We've got another question here by Stephen Riley. He asked, could Hank Brown come in and be a player in the QB race?
Listen, my official answer to any QB question is no comment. Somebody's going to come in. At what capacity they're coming in is largely up to the guys on campus right now. Right. So, if you he's going to have to bring somebody in, because I believe that there's going to be attrition in that room, Caesar, no matter what.
I agree.
One of these three quarterbacks, Holden Gariner, TJ Finley, Robbie Ashford, is not going to be on this roster in the fall. And I'm telling you, TJ is working progress towards a degree. So he may have another freebie transfer coming as a graduate student. And Holden still has his freebie portal jump in his pocket. Robbie's he's got the least options out of all of them. But, if they decide to leave, that probably means he beat them out. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's all I got. You got any more comments, Mike?
No, I would just, I'll end by saying halfway through spring, I think the Hugh Freeze era has been so far pretty successful for the offseason. They've recruited well. They seem to have things headed the right direction. A lot of the players are happy with the direction, and they just have to find a way to keep that momentum going into A-Day. And then post A-Day, I would like to see some clear direction on how the roster is developing before the fall. Now, you may not be able to do it in the quarterback room, but I think they can do it in some other areas and give us a clearer picture of who the guys are going to be for Auburn football come September.
I agree. For sure. For sure. Good conversation, man. Tell the people what they need to be doing, man, and tell them what we got cooked up for them in the off season.
Hey, listen, become a Patreon member. Help us help you. Help us help you by becoming a patron. $5.99 a month will get you there. We have hit 10,000 subscribers. We're on the hunt for 10,000 patrons. So if you subscribe, become a patron, help us be the #1 source for Auburn football content here on these YouTubes. You can also help us by giving the gift of the War Report. Hit that gifted membership button. Give the gift of the War Report to somebody who has not made the decision to become a member yet. Listen to us on podcasts is a great way to support our content too. Every listen helps us. Every download helps us. So go to whatever you listen to podcasts on. The Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. We are there providing you all the content. I want to thank our title sponsor, auburnsports.com, being a longtime sponsor of the War Report. They were one of the first to jump in. So we appreciate our guy, JG Tate, over there, auburnsports.com, sponsoring the War Report. Definitely want to give a shout out to the Rogue Shop. You guys are very familiar with this due to the transitions these days. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your next order at the Rogue Shop. They are longtime believers and sponsors of the War Report as well. So support us by supporting our sponsors, guys. There's a number of ways to keep the work that we're doing here going. This is definitely one of them. So thank you to all our sponsors.
One way you can keep this going, guys, is share this content on social media. There's a lot of people who haven't heard of us. Help them find us by sharing this at us. Hit the hashtag, smash the like button, guys. That definitely helps us in the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to our channel. All right. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The War Rapport. And we're TW Rapport on TikTok. Zipper now, guys, but we will definitely be back Friday with the morning drop. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.